My name is Pete Kotowski. That's K-O-T-O-W-S-K-I. I'm the investigator in charge from the National Transportation Safety Board. Before I begin, on behalf of myself, my team, and the board itself, we offer our condolences to the families involved that suffered this terrible tragedy. And our goal, as always, is to see what the causes of those events that took place and hopefully come upon some type of solution to prevent them from happening again in the future. The National Transportation Safety Board is an independent federal agency charged by Congress with investigating every civil aviation accident in the United States and significant accidents in other modes of transportation, including railroad, highway, marine, and pipeline hazardous materials. The NTSB determines the probable cause of the accidents and issues safety recommendations at preventing future accidents. In addition, the NTSB carries out special studies concerning transportation safety and coordinates the resources of the federal government and other organizations to provide assistance to families of victims impacted by major transportation disasters. The NTSB launched a multidisciplinary team to this crash due to the unusual circumstances of this crash, loss of life, and our continued interest in safe student transportation. Our investigation runs concurrently and in cooperation with the Pottawatomie Sheriff's Office. The on-scene staff will be working in the following specialized areas: highway factors, human performance factors, motor carrier operations, survival factors, vehicle factors, fire group, and our recorders group. Our investigation is basically a 9-point matrix process. In that, we examine three things that are involved in a crash: the environment, the persons involved, and the vehicle. We examine those three elements in the pre-incident or pre-crash condition, the crash condition itself, and the post-crash. Because although the event takes place oftentimes in a millisecond or a millisecond, the events that lead up to it are long-term, and oftentimes the events afterwards last a long time. Our team arrived here on Tuesday evening and completed everybody on scene by yesterday morning. We initiated our on-scene investigation, and at the present time our investigators are in the field working, and we're compiling information and gathering evidence. Our on-scene investigation generally takes about 5 to 14 days, and upon our departure, within about 14 days or so, we will issue a preliminary factual report about the investigation at that particular time. After we complete the on-scene phase, we will continue to conduct a detailed examination of the evidence recovered, research issues that have been developed, and the finalization of our final reports. A public docket of factual information involved in this investigation will be developed and made available to the public. Our investigations take about 12 to 14 months to complete. Briefly, our investigative groups and our highway group, they have initiated the on-scene documentation and photographs of the scene. We'll continue with an in-depth examination and measurements of the road, including the draining ditch, elevation, and the vehicle trajectory itself. At the present time, we have pretty much established the positioning and trajectory of the vehicle, but we still have some additional work to do before we release that finding. Our human performance group will examine the driver's qualification, experience, health, and fitness for duty. We have obtained toxicology samples from both the driver and the occupant. They have been forwarded to a lab facility that we use provided by the FAA in Oklahoma City. Our motor carrier operations group We'll examine the school district's pupil transportation policies, routing, drug and alcohol testing, and oversight, in addition to the applicable federal, state, and local regulations to school bus operations. Our survival factors group will examine the driver and occupant injuries and mechanisms of injuries, the vehicle construction, and emergency egress. Our vehicle group has started to document the vehicle involved, and they include the overall dimensions of the vehicle, the design and egress points of the vehicle, examination of the vehicle components, and review of vehicle recalls. At the present time, we are aware of a safety recall issued by NHTSA for school buses similar to the one involved in this incident. We are currently following through with that and working with NHTSA and with the manufacturer. That recall involved an issue with the electrical circuitry. Whether that has any involvement in that, that's an area that we are going to continue to examine, and actually to make sure that it actually belongs, or that recall involved this particular vehicle. Our fire group is here to examine the vehicle and the crash location, looking for the ignition source and the promulgation of the fire. Our recorders group will do an examination to determine the presence of recorded related to the vehicle and its operations, and recorders that may have been installed post-manufacture. Oftentimes, school buses are equipped with in-view cameras in the interior. Although there was a substantial amount of damage to the interior and to the components involved with this vehicle, we're still looking for traces of that evidence and be able to take it back to our lab facilities to look to see if there's any pertinent information available on it. That type of information is extremely important to us because, unlike aviation and marine and rail, motor vehicles and commercial motor vehicles do not have the traditional referred to black box. Our information that is utilized often comes from a various number of recorders that are on vehicles today, such as the engine control modules, transmission control modules, ABS systems, and again, aftermarket install of devices of cameras or forward-looking view devices. That is the update to where we are and what our process is at this time. And now I'm prepared to answer a few questions. Our responses will only be to factual information and information that we have verified at this particular point. We do not deal with conjecture.
Can you tell us how old the bus is and when it was last maintained?
The vehicle was manufactured in 2004. It's classified as a 2005 International. The maintenance records and the complete history of that vehicle are being reviewed. We do have the documents at this time.
Do we know if there's a natural gas or diesel bus?
The information that we have now is it looks like it's a diesel-operated bus.
Do you have any idea what caused this at this point?
No, sir, we don't. And our on-scene investigation is just the gathering of evidence and facts. The conclusions and probable cause will be determined at a later time.
Do you know why they couldn't get out?
No, sir. But that's one area that we're investigating, and that's, again, where we look at, the construction of the vehicle and our survival factors.
Can you go into a little more detail about the safety recall on the bus?
The question is can we go into more detail about the safety recall? The safety recall that we're aware of just as an indication generally of some type of an electrical circuitry issue with that type of bus. And again, we haven't confirmed that this bus was actually involved in the recall. Oftentimes when recalls are issued, they address a particular make and manufacturer, but there's a sequential oftentimes of serial numbers that are involved, and not necessarily the whole year. So that's area that we're going down. But that is information that we felt that it was important to release, that's an area that we're examining.
What year was it subject to a recall?
I don't have that information in front of me now.
Okay, but it was subject to a recall.
But it was subject to a recall issued by NHTSA.
Can you talk about the layout of diesel buses? I mean, is there a tank that's toward the back of the bus or anything like that that may or may not have played into this?
In the school bus standards, they're mounted attached to the side of the frame, and they are encased in a very robust type of configuration and support to prevent intrusion into the fuel tank. Again, that was a result of an investigation that we did in Carrollton, Kentucky, where there were 26 children killed because of the loss of integrity of the fuel system. And as our recommendations have been put forward to have a robust protection of that fuel system.
Do you know if the fire on the bus happened before or after it crashed into the ditch?
We don't know at this point.
And do you know what the source of the fire was, or were there multiple sources?
Not at this point. We don't have an answer for that.
You said surveillance and video cameras does help in an investigation like this. Did this particular bus have a camera on it?
There is some type of system that was inside of the bus itself. We're working through those components now to see what it is and what information it may contain. But we are going to continue to follow through with that and have an examination of those components that are available to us.
Was it a video system? Can you describe it a little bit more?
No, I can't. We don't have sufficient amount of information from the manufacturer or from the bus company on that system yet.
And it wasn't destroyed in the fire, or
Oh, it was damaged severely.
do you know if it'll work?
That's why it'll go to our facilities in Washington, D.C.
How many NTSB investigators are here working on this, or I guess working on it total?
On scene, there are 10 personnel that are on scene right now. We are working again with our support staff back in D.C. with our folks in our recorders lab, our research and engineering department, and our medical officer.
And you said the investigation could last about a year, is that right?
That's correct.
Do we know if there are fire extinguishers on board the bus? Is that a...
There's a requirement. The presence of the one hasn't been determined as of yet.
Have you, in your experience, seen any other situation similar to what happened here in Oakland?
We've investigated crashes that have involved fires from various types of origins, not just school buses, but also with motor coaches. But as I said, the circumstances in this one, without a sustained or heavy impact, is one of the reasons why it drew our attention. And that's what I meant by the unusual circumstances in this crash.
Do we know where the deceased were on the bus, location of the two?
We believe we have that information. We're still have a number of issues that we need to resolve.
Are you able to tell us where they were in the bus?
Not at this point, no, sir. Okay. So in conclusion then, there will be no further on-scene press briefings on this investigation. All additional press releases will be through our Public Affairs Office in Washington, D.C., and future inquiries can be directed to Mr. Keith Holloway, that's Holloway, at 202-314-6000. It's 202-314-6000. Thank you very much.